don't know where the fear came from. Perhaps something happened when I was a baby. My mother says at first I was a good baby. Would practically sleep throughout the night, and then when I was around 3 months old, just like that, everything changed. I started screaming as soon as the light in my nursery was switched off. She soon sussed it out, and in my living memory I've always slept with the light on. That was it. That was how it had always been. Then at 5, I had decided I didn't like the silence of the night either. I can't remember why or how I got that into my head. I just needed company, and the constant drone of the TV became my solace. Another bad habit that followed me into adulthood. So what? My therapist says Viva exposure therapy, also known as flooding, will help. That exposing myself to the feared stimulus over time would eventually help towards a complete cessation of this inordinate fear. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He clearly doesn't understand. The psychotherapist says it's called nyctophobia, apparently also known as scotophobia, acrophobia and ligophobia. Simply put,
a severe fear of the dark.
He reckons
We are evolutionary programmed to fear the dark because predators usually hunt at night.
He rambled on about how
Our inherent fear may have nothing to do with the dark at all, but the unseen dangers it may conceal.
Anyway, now the therapist wants to shock my system with his exposure therapy.
Small, incremental, non-threatening doses in a process called desensitization.
I think he got that straight out of a textbook. Desensitization. I ask you. This was total bullshit. And as far as I was concerned, he wasn't worth the money I was paying him. I don't know why I was so angry at the suggestion. And of course, he leapt on my negativity and wanted to waste more of my money, exploring my anger and resistance to the idea, asking me inane questions with regards to...
What emotions does this suggestion dredge up?
Well, obviously anger would be one. I had snapped at him before grabbing my bag and storming out of his office. That evening when I went home, I was further irritated. I don't understand. People say I have a temper, but then they go out of their way to piss me off.
For God's sake, woman, just hear him out. What harm can it do?
That's Dave, my long-suffering fiancé, telling me to go back, chastising me like a flipping child. But of course he would. He had suggested the therapist in the first place, even sourced the quack.
You really need to get an handle on this temper of yours.
He muttered under his breath as he poured himself another cup of coffee and settled his head back into the newspaper. I karate chopped his newspaper out of his hands. That's rude! I'm talking to you! I yelled at him. He blinked up at me and looked down at his crumpled paper. I just think it's too soon. This is my second session. Don't you think it's too soon? He shrugged as he picked up pages of his dismantled paper, mumbling under his breath. I hated it when he did that. Speak up, Dave! I can't bloody hear you!
I said you were just complaining about how much it were costing you, and how you don't want to prolong the whole, and I quote, fucking process. Now you think it's too soon. I can't keep up.
Try and keep up, Dave. I'm thinking aloud here. It's called thought showers. He looked confused.
Thought what?
His eyes clouding over momentarily. He shook his head and focused on me again.
He's the expert. I'm sure he knows what he's doing. Hear him out.
He repeated like a parrot as he calmly smoothed out the crinkles in the papers. For Christ's sakes, I did hear him out, I had exploded. And I don't like him, not one little bit. And that was that as far as I was concerned. But I did go back, because people always make you do what you really don't want to do. It's called compromise, apparently. I knew Dave had a vested interest in me continuing my therapy. I knew he was sick of the bright light and he was losing sleep. Funny how he didn't mind when we first started dating.
How about you try moving the light into the hallway outside your bedroom, leaving the door ajar? Let's start with that,
the therapist had suggested. I sat there for a bit thinking. He stared at me expectantly. Eventually I shrugged and told him I could try that. I assured him I would report back next week. My true feelings on the matter was that it would never work, but frig it. I would at least be seen to try, and that hopefully would be that. As hot-tempered as I am, I can be reasonable. When David suggested headphones for my nighttime background noise, I had finally acquiesced. I don't like it, but I wear them, don't I? Let it never be said I don't at least try.
Remember, there is no time frame on this. You do it when you are ready.
No, we will not be prolonging this expensive process, I had thought, my eyes narrowing at his dazzling white smile. I wondered how much his dental work had cost. I didn't want Dave to witness my failure, so I decided he should go home and let me get through this on my own. We didn't live together, although he was mainly here. Now I think about it, he probably kept his flat so he could at least get a couple of nights good kip every few months. Lately he had been spending more time at his. I guess he was coming to the end of the road with the lights. When I broke the news he would not be hanging around for the implementation of this futile exercise, he had fussed and grumbled, which was a bit of a surprise. He was usually very quiet, and if he had an opinion, he usually kept it to himself. Not this time.
For crying out loud, woman, why do I have to go? First time you're going to sleep with the lights off and you're sending me packing? I'd bloody well like to witness this. I think I bloody deserve it, considering the years of sleep deprivation I've suffered.
I was stunned, and not a little pissed off by his reaction. Oh, we're suffering now, are we? Tell you what, let me put you out of your misery once and for all. How about you bugger off back to your flat for good? I can save myself some money and sleep with my bloody lights on for the rest of my flipping life. I could feel my face heating up. The blood was pulsing in my temples. My cheeks were hot. I'm not doing this for your entertainment, you know.
Calm down. For the love of God.
Dave's a nice guy.
Fine, I'll go.
The salt of the earth. A go-along kind of guy. Usually. That's why I'm marrying him. Love? Oh, I don't know. Love is a little overrated, don't you think? More like a deep affection. Is that the same thing? Rarely complains. Adores me. He's definitely the more affectionate of the two of us. I do try. I mean, I'm doing this for him, aren't I? Anyway, enough about Dave. This is about me. He left early the next morning. He'd actually decided to take a trip up north to visit his parents. So that same night, I braced myself. Tonight was as good a night as any to try it out. I cracked my door open, turned off the bedroom light and stood there bathed in the bright light from the hallway, peering into my darkened room. I don't think I'd ever seen my room in the dark before. My fingers shook uncontrollably as it hovered over the switch, ready to switch the light back on at the slightest threat. I looked around the room. My eyes adjusted and I watched the shadows. What was that? Did something just move? I switched the light on quickly. No, just a shadow cast by my handbag. I turned the light off again. When I was satisfied there was nothing lurking, I ran across the room and dived onto my bed, pulling the covers up to my chin. The comforting light in the corridor seemed to be enough to allay any serious palpitations, anxiety, profuse sweating, nausea or shakes. I lay there staring into the gloom, waiting for whatever horror would rush out at me. I watched the shadows. I tracked them. Too many shadows. I let out a yelp as the pipes rattled. I leapt out of bed and switched the light back on. My heart was pounding out of my chest. I turned the volume up on my TV and settled back in bed to some good safe kip. Tomorrow was another day. I'll try again tomorrow. The thought was barely cohesive before I drifted off. I had started the flooding on Friday. By the following Friday I was sleeping with the light off in my bedroom. I was proud of myself and patted myself on the back for a job well done. Dave was impressed, enjoying the fruits of my labour. I was cured. All was good with the world. That is, until I returned to the counsellor.
Now I would like you to try it with the lights off completely.
He held up his hand before I could protest.
I understand this is difficult, and I am unbelievably proud of you. What you have accomplished in a week is exciting.
What? You mean with all the lights off?
Yes, ideally with all the lights off.
My heart began to pound at the prospect of sleeping in my house in the dark. How about a nightlight? I suggested, tentatively. The therapist thought about it.
How do you think Dave would feel about that?
Honestly, Doc, I don't give a flying tomato how he feels about it. This is about what I can and cannot do, and sleeping in my house in complete darkness is not happening. I was seething. Fuck Dave, I thought. This is about me. He picked up a card and handed it to me. I took it. My hand was shaking and sweating. I could feel beads of sweat popping out all over me, prickling under my armpits.
This is a clinic that deals with all sorts of phobias, and yours is one they can accommodate. I don't want you to try this on your own, so they will be monitoring you closely. You have nothing to fear. One of their specialities is exposure therapy, something I really believe you can benefit from.
And then I was suddenly engulfed by rage. A film of red came down over my eyes. I don't know how I contained it. Dave says count to 10 when I get like this. Staring at the card, I took a few measured deep breaths.
If you agree, I will book you in.
I could feel his eyes boring into the top of my skull as I looked down at the card. I couldn't focus. My blood pressure must have hit an all-time high. I took in a deep breath, counted to 10.
The website is on the card. Have a browse. They have a whole section on sleep therapy and phobias.
His voice trailed off as I stood up and, without a by your leave, walked out the door. I'm not going to lie. My first instinct was to throw the bloody card away. But I mulled over it and then the internal battle in my head commenced. I wasn't doing anyone any harm by sleeping with the light on, even less now that the light was in the hallway. A nightlight wouldn't be unreasonable. I hadn't told the counsellor that I'd actually begun to use a nightlight as well as the light in the hallway. Truthfully, that is probably why I had accomplished so much in such a short space of time. It was progress, damn it. Okay, maybe I bent the rules a little bit, but so what? I could go through life quite happily like that. But could Dave go through life like that? I had lied to the poor sod and told him the counsellor had suggested the nightlight. I thought about what the counsellor had said, and although angry at the time, it was a real consideration. 1,500 frickin' pounds. Can you believe it? Just to turn the fucking light off on me. Dave could have fucking done that. I slammed my laptop shut. That evening I glared at Dave over dinner. I grunted in way of a reply to his conversation. Was he worth that much? I suppose. I conceded grudgingly. He didn't know about it. The clinic. None of it. He thought I'd stopped seeing the therapist. I'm lying here in some sort of coma. I had a heart attack. I know it sounds ridiculous. I say some sort of coma, well, because I could hear people talking. Dave, my mom, Dad, the doctors. My thoughts are as cohesive as if I was awake, only I can't move or open my eyes. It's dark in here. But not turn the lights off dark or close your eyes kind of dark. It's like dusk, the darkest part of twilight before night begins. And only the occasional muted voices of nurses, doctors, and Dave keep my mind from folding in on itself. I can't imagine what I would have done if it had been that pitch black dark, like turn the lights off dark. Probably many more heart attacks. I can hear the monitor beeping. Sometimes I can hear it going off the chart, usually when I'm thinking angry thoughts, and I can tell you I get really angry in here. According to the snippets of information I've managed to pick up while laying here, I'd attended the clinic, and as soon as they settled me down and turned the light off, I'd started screaming, and then promptly went into cardiac arrest. I don't remember that, the heart attack, but I suppose I wouldn't, would I? One particular doctor tells Dave that it should have been a more gradual process. It was too sudden, and he was not surprised at my reaction and consequences. No fucking kidding. A few days later, I heard Dave tell my mom that the clinic had mixed up my notes with some other poor bastard. I heard Dave tell the doctors and nurses not to turn the lights off under any circumstances.
I don't know what'll happen if she wakes up and the lights are off.
Bit late for that, I scream at him in my head. When I wake up, and I'll be waking up, I'm going to sue that fucking quack. The dusk had turned red and I heard a loud pop. Was that an aneurysm? I felt a trickle deep inside my ear, and then a thunderclap of pain reverberated around my head. Something whispered deep within me to calm the fuck down, but I couldn't. My rage was unstoppable. I continued to scream inside, fighting to get out. Fuck up the whole world for how unfair this all was. I'm going to shut that Ponzi clinic down. I'm going to be living the high life on those negligent bastards' money, and no bloody Dave, idiot. He's dumped. Where the hell did he get that psycho-babbling quack from anyways? I heard Dave whisper to me that it was going to...
It's going to be alright, sweetheart.
Get away from me, you shit. If you hadn't suggested this in the first place. You shit! Look what you've done! Put me in hospital! You shit! Suddenly my eyes popped open and I was looking directly into Dave's tear-filled blue eyes. I had literally fought my way out of the coma. The rage had yanked me out. He must have been leaning in for a kiss. He let out a yelp and staggered back. I was just as shocked as Dave, but I still managed to open my mouth and whisper a few words. You shit. And then I heard a pop and everything went dark. You know, turn the lights off kind of dark.